Hello and welcome to View from the Bridge. My name is Joel Lammy, joined today by Richard Ailing. Richard, how are you doing?
Very well, yes. Since we last spoke, I think Notts have got a good win, and we've had some good championship action. So it's been another good 2 weeks, and we've got some more good county championship coming up. So looking forward to it as always.
Absolutely, we've got loads to get stuck into today. County Championship, as you say, is continuing to deliver lots of great storylines. We'll touch on those in a minute, but obviously, since we last spoke, not have played Glamorgan. In the end, comfortable win, but many times during that game, we didn't feel like it, particularly in the first morning when they were about 100 for six. And even then, sort of going to the final day, needing 8 wickets to take to secure victory. Again, what were your overall thoughts on that? Pleased with the result, or sort of a little bit concerned about maybe some of the issues in that game?
I don't think there were too many issues. I mean, first morning, you looked at the scorecards, you were a bit concerned, and I think a couple of the dismissals were a little bit disappointing. But from then on, it was a really strong performance. Fergus O'Neill was outstanding, and injured towards the end, but his batting, I don't know if it's come on, but he definitely seems to be genuine all-rounder, and his bowling's fantastic, and there was contributions from several different people. I mean, mainly see Haynes and Clark was probably the two outstanding one. Haynes particularly when that first innings it looked like we were in a bit of trouble, but I think the bowlers looked a good unit. There's a couple of times where it seems to go a little bit quiet, and you're looking at how many overs were remaining and checking the forecast, but I wasn't too concerned. But I think overall for the first two games, and particularly that game, a very positive performance with maybe a couple of people that still haven't to contribute, but it's early days, so I don't think we'll be nitpicking for that. What were your thoughts on the performance against Glamorgan?
Yeah, I thought the standard of play compared to the Somerset match on both sides and then the first day or so was lacking. I don't think the bowling or batting from either side really was of the highest standard. I thought Glamorgan bowled okay, but not well enough to probably get six early wickets. But the fielding was definitely was top class on both sides. The wicketkeeper standing up, the catching was both aspects were brilliant. I mean, covering his catch to dismiss Kieran Carson standing up was really impressive. I mean, O'Neill, as you said, yeah, I mean, come in under pressure, a couple of off drives to forward to begin with, and Jack Haynes has really started to step up since the start of last season. He's gone from sort of make some nice 50s to really scoring those big hundreds now, which are a real sign of a class player. So that was really good to see. Yeah, I mean, I'm not overly concerned. I think Pete Moore's touched upon it after the game, hinted that maybe there were times in the game where the intensity wasn't at the right level. I think particularly maybe when Glamorgan were batting a second time, maybe the suggestion was that we kind of thought the wickets would come. So yeah, overall, I'm the fact that we won. I think that was crucial, and I think having had a week off, Warwickshire to come now, I think we'll be fully in gear. I suppose my two thoughts are: one, obviously, what are your the team selection, Lyndon James being dropped. What were your thoughts on that? And also the form of Hamid. I just think he looks a little bit susceptible to straight deliveries at the minute. Um, you know, is do you sort of do you think it's a concern going forward, or do you say, well, look, he's an opener in England, these things kind of happen? I guess it's always a fine balancing act, isn't it? So yeah, your thoughts on both those, the selection, but also Hamid's form.
Yeah, I think I'll start on Hamid. I think, say that they were sort of the ones that you'd be nitpicking about with the Notts performance. I think, people can get low scores, but I don't know what you thought about his dismissals, but they did look slightly concerning, and they're fairly innocuous. I don't know whether that's maybe a bit harsh, innocuous deliveries, but it looked like played around them. I don't know whether it's quite a technical issue that he's having early doors, but I think you don't want to sort of overplay at the moment because it is, say, early season, and maybe sort of the week off he's had a chance to tinker something and he'll come good and score 100. So, I think the dismissals were one of those that sort of maybe opposition teams or bowlers will see that and just have it in the back of their minds. But I wouldn't be ringing too many alarm bells at the moment. But something of a concern. And on the selection, I guess James in the end did have an influence, didn't he? But he probably was one of the players from the first game. You say wasn't quite at the top of their game, but I can see it's a very strong lineup, and I think one of the bowlers, someone's going to feel unlucky to miss out, aren't they? If everyone's fit of O'Neill, Hutton, and Zane and everyone else. So I think someone's going to be unlucky with the balance of the side as consideration. But with O'Neill batting so well, and obviously Hutton's a deep, reasonable bat as well, I didn't think we missed out on that. So I think it was a fair enough choice, although someone was going to be hardly done by, and unfortunately he was probably the one that was slightly off his game against Somerset. What were your thoughts on particularly the selection?
Yeah, well, just put it on Hamid first. I think there's a bit of a trend. He just seems to be have a high percentage of dismissals bowled or LBW for someone who's clearly a top class batsman. I mean, I'm not disputing that for the moment. So, and I thought being bowled first ball, it seemed to just a leg stump, straight delivery. He didn't seem to move. He just missed. So hopefully, he's the sort of player. I think he got a couple of starts against Somerset. So. And he got 200 against Warwickshire last year. I feel like if he gets his rhythm going, gets a score against Warwickshire, I think that will kickstart him. So hopefully it's nothing more than that. Again, I'm not qualified to pass judgment on his technique, but I did hear Michael Carberry saying on commentary actually during the Hampshire Somerset game, he thinks Hamid struggles against high pace, which is a separate issue. So, which is quite interesting. With regards to the selection, I would have lent towards James over Hutton, but it was a 55-45 call. In the end, it looks like they made the right decision. I didn't have a strong feel either way. I think they did well to not drop Patterson White either. I think it's easy to go, pitch is going to be Trent Bridge, Ricky, spinners won't play a part, but he was crucial on that final day because, we might have gone right down to the wire if and taken those 3 wickets. Lyndon James, after what he did last year, I thought, he probably deserves a quiet game. But I suppose if you're playing Glamorgan, who a team you probably think batting is their strength, having the better bowling attack wasn't a bad idea. I think when you're playing a Warwickshire or Surrey, I'm a little bit nervous with O'Neill at 8, Patterson White 7. It feels a little bit thin, but if they played the same team again, I wouldn't have any complaints. I mean, the way Hutton bowled, and also last year he got 5, 1, 4, and 3 in his 4 innings against Warwickshire in terms of wickets. So he clearly had fun against them last year. And having watched Warwickshire against Essex quite a bit in the last few days, I think his type of bowling is well suited to that batting lineup. So difficult decisions to make, but lovely problem to have. And as you said, Lyndon James did end up playing a bit of a part in the end. What did you make of that? So the facts are, as far as I can tell, O'Neill on the day was unable to bowl. It wasn't a case of he could have bowled. The club is saying he just couldn't bowl. He wasn't able to. Now, not wanted to put in Ollie Stone. That was rejected by the match referee. He said he's not like for like because he's too quick. So Lyndon James comes in, who pace-wise is probably very similar, but obviously isn't a frontline bowler. But then you've got Glamorgan's captain, Kieran Carson, saying, he's a fresh bowler you're bringing on in day 4. Where do you stand on it? From my perspective, I don't think Notts would want to replace O'Neill with James. O'Neill had 6 wickets in the match. I don't think he bowled a huge number of overs. But at the same time, I do understand Morgan's point. You're bringing on someone fresh. I think it was made worse by the fact that James picked up 2 wickets. Although, again, I'd say that was more batting error than great bowling. What's your stance on this, but also the substitute rule in general, which I think is a good idea. I just think it needs tweaking a bit.
Yeah, I think I don't love the injury substitute rule. There was a good article from Atherton in the Times about come over from Australia, and the tweaks that it made in the England county cricket made it worse. I think it might be wrong, but the Australian rules was, I think it was 15 days or something that you had to sit out if you were taken off as an injury substitute, and especially when you've got a blank game week is not started and mix it, and someone has a side strain, it's an absolute no-brainer. So I think they need to make that much more difficult, and I think the threshold for an injury substitute should be very high. I think personally I prefer it just as a concussion substitute, really. There's do you understand it can be frustrating when someone gets injured and it ruins the game a little bit, but how many games of cricket are ruined by that sort of injury? There's not that many. I do sort of see where they're coming from, but I'd have it as a very high threshold, because it does look like, I don't think Notts particularly gamed it, but I think every side will be looking, especially if they've got a blank game week, to bring in potentially a fresh new bowler. And yeah, I agree with you that if O'Neill had been fit, then there's no way they would rather have James coming in, but I think that just gave Notts a little bit of an extra boost. I think they would have won anyway. It doesn't really affect the outcome of the game, but yeah, I think it needs to be looked at and changed, and made the rules much more stricter, because there's been, I don't know how many, there's been a lot already. I think it's almost double figures already, but what changes would you make?
So I'm just going back quickly. So in 2024, Surrey playing Essex, Jordan Cox has to have emergency appendix surgery, and they can't replace him. Now, to me, that seems unfair. So for me, it should be injuries where it's clear that the person cannot play on. It's not for niggles. It's not. So I think when they're making these decisions, it needs to be categorical. They cannot play, and then they miss the next match no matter what. So it's because at the minute O'Neill can play the next game because it's an 8-day thing. That's how I tighten it. It shouldn't. There seems to be a lot of players who are missing. How many matches can you think of where someone's actually gone off and not been replaced? Not in the past, it's very rare. I mean, that Cox one stands out for me because that seemed like a bit of a one-off, where I can't think of many matches where bowlers have not sort of stayed the course of the game. So I think it needs to be exceptional injuries where there's absolutely no disputing the suggestion that they can, that they can't keep playing. Because in that game, Surrey won by 145 runs, and that could have been crucial. I mean, Cox, is a star player for Essex, so that's kind of how I would change it. I think it needs to be. Don't use the words clear and obvious. We know that isn't always the case when it comes to VAR, but I think it needs to be exceptional, where there is absolutely no disputing the fact that they can't play any part. So if they break a thumb, something in the outfield, well, I've seen players play with broken thumbs, batting. I think that's what I mean. I think they need to really tighten it so it's on those, like with concussion, like with COVID, like with family bereavement, where where no one can turn around and go and dispute it. That's how I think it needs to be. But I think the rule itself is a good idea, and I think it just seems to me grossly unfair that you can have a potentially, let's say there's a title decided at the end of the season, and not have Josh Tongue playing, and he goes down, injured, and he can barely move, can barely walk, and you can't replace him. I think if that happened and we lost by a narrow margin, I think there'd be a bit of an outcry. So I'm all for it. I just think it needs to be tweaked. But the thing with all these things, that's why you trial it and you make changes. I think sometimes people forget that when you introduce something as big as this, it's not going to get it right first time. Doesn't mean you should get rid of it straight away. I mean, I remember DRS coming in. It took a number of years to get that, what I'd say is pretty good now. There were a lot of issues to begin with. So, but no, I can see your point. I think it's one of those things where over time, I think people's attitudes will change, but I think they need to maybe implement it better, so to speak. So there seems to be a lot of substitutes going on at the minute.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, you can't really blame the counties, can you? I think when the Glamorgan team no weren't having a moan, but I think they said they'd do something similar. But yeah, you need to stop that. I think my only thing is that the tweaks they've made to the Australian system seem to have made it worse. Whereas you'd hope they'd tweak a system to make it better. Was what I'd be hoping when you bring something in. But yeah, it's trial. I think as long as they're quick to make changes, like we can't leave it like this for the whole season. But if they're adaptable, then that's fine. And admit they got it wrong, then we can come to a point where it works for everyone, which I think has to be stricter, whether that's longer days you miss or you have to miss the next game or however it is. But you need to. At the moment, it's too easy for counties to pull that trigger, and I think everyone will be doing it, and that's not, I think, what it should be used for. But I think it's good to see some changes, and they just need to get it right, and get it right hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was your thought on the declaration? I mean, I was staggered when they were 450 runs ahead. Wickets down, they came out to bat on day 3 with heavy rain forecast for most of the day. In the end, they had a whole session to go, but I get the idea that, the wicket was flat, and to be honest, they kept playing all the way through day 4. And then in day 4, they bat through the opening session and lose maybe no more than 1 wicket. They're probably thinking, we can get these runs. But did you think maybe it was a bit defensive? That was the only decision they made. I thought not enforcing the follow-on was fair enough. I thought declaration was a bit defensive. What did you think?
I think maybe a touch defensive. Yeah, I think I said something similar with the Somerset one. Declaring on a wicket that's either flattening out or is already flat is always a very tricky decision. You'd probably rather err on the side of caution. Don't like weather impacting it too much. I think, maybe in hindsight declared slightly a bit earlier, but I think, when pitches are flattening out, and you've seen what run chases have recently, and maybe they got bundled out for less than 120 in the first innings, that the confidence wouldn't have been the highest, but all it takes is one partnership and say they're in the game. So I'm happy when the pitch is flat, on the side of, or flattening out, on the side of caution. I'm okay with where we're at on that front, but it did make it maybe a little bit. I was looking at the weather, and the overs maybe a little bit more than I would have liked, but I think that's absolutely fine. If the results were going our way elsewhere, in terms of the Surrey game, I didn't think we had to go plenty of time in the bowling attack to go for it. So I was okay with it.
Fair enough. Well, we shall see how we go on against Warwickshire. A team we did well against last year with the 10-wicket win to seal the title, and rain preventing us from winning at their place after we bowled them up for 93. How are you feeling about that fixture? Just to say, we've obviously put out some Substack pieces, one today and one's coming out tomorrow, looking ahead to that fixture. So do check that out. Chris Wokes was clearly rested for the Essex game. He'll come back in, and then obviously they'll have a bit of a selection dilemma. Keith Barker came in and did really well, but playing 2 games in a row at his age, I don't know. Will they stick with him again? Jordan Thompson's played 3 games in a row, and he's done pretty well, but do they, give him a bit of a break? Ethan Bamber looked very good as well, batting wise. So they've looked a bit flaky since the opening game against Surrey. Last 2 games, the batting cut them down a bit. But on paper, you think that's a strong side with, batting all the way down. Barker came in at 9 in this game. This is a guy with a first-class 100 at Trent Bridge. How are you feeling towards this one? I mean, I had Warwickshire as my sort of dark horses for the title, and I think that Essex win keeps them sort of in the hunt, but not been convincing so far, I'd say.
Yeah, I think a few people were sort of quite keen on Warwickshire. I mean, just particularly with Woke's back, but he's not going to be able to play every game. Although they've got decent depth in the ball. Yeah, I agree. I think they're. I mean, we said Glamorgan's batting was their strong suit, and then they got bowled out for less than 120. So what do we know? But yeah, I think Warwickshire's bowling is a strong point. I think when you match up our bowling attack, whether Ferguson will be better, we're not sure, but I think you'd fancy our bowlers to be on top of them and be able to skill them. They had basically both for Warwickshire innings were very relying on maybe one individual, and I know you saw more of the Sam Hain innings and were purring over that. But so he's obviously looking in good nick, and Bill Webster got runs. But yeah, I think they're batting maybe a little bit fragile, and you'd fancy us to get on top of them. And I think you mentioned that so we'd had good success against them, Hutton and NL previously. So I don't think the Warwickshire batters will be fancying taking on our attack. It looks like we're. I think we should go into that as favourites. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've talked about exactly how we feel about Nottingham, but compared to some of the other sides, I think it's been a positive start, and we should be confident going into that game. What are your thoughts on that game? Confident?
I fancy a draw. I don't know why. The forecast looks pretty good. I have a feeling the pitch will flatten out a bit, and I I don't know. I think Warwickshire used to playing on good wickets at home most of the time, don't lose many, and I think. Um, but this is what's interesting, though. I think if we prepare a pitch which is a bit of pace in it, I think that suits our bowlers more. I think if we prepare a pitch which turns, I think that suits our bowlers more than theirs. But at the same time, we're 11 unbeaten at home. Why change a winning or a non-losing formula? So I'd say I'm confident in that. I don't think we'll lose, but yeah, I mean Warwickshire. I don't know what. I keep seeing their team. I keep thinking they're better than the way they're playing at the minute. So their top three looked very flaky against Cook and Porter. I think if we get Hutton and O'Neill on them in a pitch which does a bit first up, I fancy us. But at the same time, Sam Hain, Bo Webster, Chris Wokes in sort of middle order, I think that's for counter level, that's pretty strong. Yeah, Hain was that first innings against Essex, he was absolutely brilliant. It was a masterclass. I know he got a duck second time round. So no, I mean I think it's going to be a great match. I think it'll be very tight. I hope not step up a little bit from the Glamorgan game. I think they need to be on it from the first ball. I think if they do that, they'll be fine. And I guess we're hopeful Tongue will play again. Duckett hopefully will not get run out like he was. I think it's going to be a great game. I wouldn't predict anything. I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's going to be just a superb contest. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the Championship this season. We're getting great games everywhere, really. I mean, Leicestershire, having Surrey almost cling on a little bit. Sussex's revival, Somerset having lost so many players over the winter and missing loads of players at the start of the season, keep winning. I think it's just fascinating. Obviously, Yorkshire are going to get some players coming back now as well. Root might be back.
Sorry, Essex.
I mean, that'd be a good game. That'd be interesting. I'm interested to see what pitch Surrey produce, because obviously they need to get a win, probably. And they'll, the over was obviously clearly flat last time, but then do you put a bit in it for the seamers, knowing that you're going to probably have Cook, Porter, Snater coming at you? So it's really interesting. What sort of caught your eye then from what you've sort of seen over the last couple of weeks?
I think there's been a few. I think maybe we can start. Yeah, sorry. I mean, I agree. I think if they don't win that game, then you're not saying they're out of the title race, but they're really behind the eight ball. I mean, seen a couple of pitches they've looked very flat and not much chance for a result. So, I mean, yeah, I think they will be very keen for results. I'll be very interested in that. I think there's a couple of good games coming up in the next round that will really give a barometer of where things are. I mean, Surrey and Essex. We'll see whether Surrey are going to be there and thereabouts. You never count them out. But I think the Notts Warwickshire game, we'll see where maybe Notts are, whether they are really going to be challenging again for the title. So if they can get, even if they draw the game, if they can get the better of the game, will be positive. And then I think Somerset has probably maybe had the most positive start. I know they've played one more game in a few other counties, but I think Ruan, Ebel, Tom Abel have been excellent so far. So I think there's a few counties that have started reasonably well, but no one's been outstanding so far. So there's a lot of counties that you're still not quite sure exactly where they're about to finish or exactly where they're going to say. Even Leicestershire looked a little bit after the first game, but a much better performance against Surrey. They're on a flat wicket. So I think it's still taking shape at the table, isn't it? And there's no one you'd pin your mass to confidently at the moment, unless you're going to say otherwise.
No, I mean, that's what's been beautiful about it. I thought Somerset lacked a little bit opener-wise and in the seam bowling department. They've had Gregory injured, Pretorius didn't play the last game. They've had Banton's been in the IPL and injured, Curly Cadmill's been injured. And yet they just seem to somehow keep winning. You think, well, you've had all their players available and a second overseas bowlers, whatever, available, you think, wow. And even without all of those, they two wins and a probably the better of a draw against Notts. I mean, that's really caught my eye. And Sussex as well. I'm pleased for them. To see how well they've done. I've been a bit surprised by those two teams how well they've done, and a little bit surprised, obviously, by the Leicestershire result against Surrey. So I'm sure I thought would struggle, and let's face it, they were very close to having 2 wins. So it's what makes it so interesting, really.
Fine margins.
Well, it is, yeah. I mean, and again, Warwickshire, they could have easily lost this game, and thinking they're in a relegation battle. I think it feels like this season every team's competitive, which is really good. I think this is going to be a fantastic season. I think if Notts do lose to Warwickshire, I don't think it's going to be fatal. I don't think it's going to be one of those years where someone's going to run away with it, like in past seasons. I think every team's going to have setbacks, especially with the Duke's ball. There's going to be more results. So, no, absolutely, I've really enjoyed that. Just quickly, I mean, we've been tweeting a bit from our account about the streaming and what we'd like to see to improve county cricket going forward, but obviously a bit conscious of time. I try and keep our podcast around half an hour. Appreciate people have a lot of different things to listen to, and we don't want to sort of bang on forever. So I think we'll come back to that another time potentially, Richard. We'd love to get your ideas and what you think about streaming and the county game in general in terms of what you'd like to see improved, changes like that. Do check out some of the tweets we've been putting out from the View from the Bridge podcast. And Simon Hughes on his podcast also responded to some of those ideas as well. Interesting, there's been talk about. He said he's trying to put forward a county cricket highlight show and trying to get that anchored with guests, but not something that's got off the ground yet. So I think it's something that needs a bit more time to go over. Maybe something we'll revisit later on. Just quickly, looking at some of the other teams, the Blaze won 1, lost 1. I saw them a bit against Lancashire. Was very impressed. Grace Ballinger in particular with the ball was superb up front. The seconds are doing well as well against Derbyshire. And in some other matches, we saw Rob Law got a 6 for Farnham. Ahmed got 100, Richard. Blimey, I mean, maybe he comes in as a spinning all round. We could have 2 of them in the side, couldn't we, going forward?
There's no reason you can't mix up the pitches. If it's someone we're playing maybe like a Surrey or something, you could make it a bit more of a turning wicket. But think in the bowling front, there's going to be a few hard luck stories this year, isn't there? I mean, the batting's not really got the depth, especially if Duckett's away with England. But the bowling, I think he asked, was it James? I feel like we're going to be asking that question every week. Whoever gets left out, it's going to be a bit of a hard luck story. But there's so much depth. But it's good to see Farhan doing well. And probably that will do him good, although I'm sure he'll be banging down the door for more opportunities in the first team going forward.
Absolutely. And Joe Pogington as well has been getting runs and wickets. So we're not sure of spinning all rounders, are we? So that's good place to leave it for now. I mean, the good thing is with all these 4 weeks of matches coming up now, we'll have lots to talk about. We didn't even mention Joe Clark's 100. I mean, that was the thing of absolute beauty. It really was. We'll have to sort of reflect on that as well another time. But that was absolutely stunning, Richard. Worth catching the highlights of Haynes and Clark's hundreds if you haven't seen them, because some of those strokes are just majestic. I don't think it gets much better than those two. That's a final question for you. If you could watch any two players in county cricket, so I put you on the spot here, who are you paying your money to see? And now that James Vince is no longer playing the Red Bull game, that's one good option taken away, I'm afraid.
You took the words out of half there. I was definitely going to go Vince and Joe Clark of the two. Who would I go for the second one? I mean, Tom Abel's been good. Yeah, it's definitely Joe Clark, and then I might go for though Rue does look good as well, doesn't he? Sometimes there's something about a lefty when they drive on our side. Yeah, maybe I will go Rue then, just for that bit of youngster element, and Joe Clark as the two. Who would you have, just quickly?
I mean, the only reason I'd probably go Rue over Haynes is because I like a bit of variety. I think Haynes is like Clark. With Rue, he's very organised. He scores all around the wicket. He's good against pace and spin. I like that calm temperament, whereas Clark can look a little bit not frenetic, but he's a bit expansive at times, and it makes you go, "Ooh, Joe, just rein it in a bit here." You don't need to go for that. Whereas with Rui, you feel like you can settle in and just relax and just enjoy it. I like that variety, so I'll go with Clark and Rui. But it's a nice choice. I mean, you could watch James, pick James Smith. He's a guy who can play himself in and accelerate. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm taking out sort of the main England players, so I'm not including Root or Brooke, because obviously, if there's anyone in world cricket I'd like to watch play, if I had one afternoon left of cricket to watch, I think it'd be Joe Root. But I do
like James Vince.
Yeah, I know, but I think again with Vince, you feel like he's going to get out any minute. He plays 3 lovely cover drives. You think he's going to snick the next one off. I don't know. I can't almost enjoy it. I'm almost just too fearful it's going to be over any minute. Whereas with Rui, you feel like
calm, isn't he?
I like feeling calm watching cricket. I have enough stress in my life. I don't want to feel stressed. There we go. That's a nice way of ending. Maybe we'll do a bowling equivalent. We'll touch on Jimmy Anderson. I think as we get closer to the England Test series starting, we'll think about maybe who can be options going forward for Anderson, the leading wicket taker already with averaging 12. So I'm doing my fantasy team a world of good. So thank you to him and Sam Cook for that. Right, we'll leave it on that note. Do check out the Substack. There's pieces out pretty much every day. We love our writing. So I've got some interesting different podcasts coming up as well in the next few weeks. So please stay tuned in for that. And we will be back again after the Warwickshire game. Take care, everyone.